Right, you're still watching Breakfast Central. Let's go to East Africa, where the People's District of Ethiopia's Tigray region are said to be on the verge of starvation. Now, a comment saying that the residents there have no food, adding that their crops and livestock had been looted during 7 months of war and were even prevented from seeking aid by the militia fighting with government forces.
Now, the testimony comes as UN Chief António Guterres has warned that parts of Tigray are on the brink of famine after a conflict erupted in November of 2020 between the Ethiopian government and the Tigrayan rebels. Now, the conflict forced almost 2 million people from their homes in Tigray, which is a region that already has food insecurity. Now, let's now bring in our correspondent, Abdino Aden, on the story. Good morning, Abdino.
Good morning, Oluchi and Olisa.
Morning, my brother. Now, the Ethiopian authorities are insisting that order is now being restored across the region and humanitarian access expanded. But the UN has warned of a repeat of Ethiopia's devastating 1984 famine and called for an immediate ceasefire in Tigray. Now, what actually is the true state of things in Ethiopia right now?
Well, in addition to that António Guterres statement, we've also had the World Food Programme executive David Beasley has also waded into the developing issue in Tigray region in relation to averting the crisis that is the famine. The Tigrayan situation is now even more complicated because there are different parts, one controlled by the militia and another by the government. And now the key factor here is access. All chiefs are calling for provision of access to the humanitarian aid in order to reach the people who are in dire need. Remember, following this more than 6 months ongoing crisis, many livelihoods have been lost as a result of the conflict. And this has affected the farmers and many other people who are engaged in the food production, as well as the ongoing day-to-day livelihoods of the people. Olisa.
All right, now, Abdino, residents say they had seen vehicles carrying aid pass by, but no one had bothered to inquire about their own predicament. Now, this births the question, why aren't residents fleeing since they're not getting fed?
Well, as I said earlier, and as well as being said by humanitarian organizations based in Ethiopia, is that the key challenge is that different parts being controlled by different bodies is actually making it more complex for the access of the people. Remember, the conflict might have ended, as the Ethiopian government had earlier said, as well as the key issue that is now facing the people in the area is access of key, significant and urgent humanitarian assistance. Now, when you see the UN chief, the World Food Programme chief, and the UN humanitarian chief, Mr. Lowcock, all in agreement that in order to avert a catastrophe now, the access of the aid must be allowed, is that is not only a matter of the people not being able to receive the aid, is also about lack of goodwill by all parties in areas of their control, not allowing this support to reach those who are mostly affected by the crisis.
Well, Abdin, you just talked about different bodies who are supposed to be aiding the problems out there, now that if at least the fighting has subsided a bit. But how would you really judge the response from these authorities so far?
Well, remember, Ethiopia is also preparing for the elections, which are set for the 21st of June. And now, if you see, this focus has shifted from concerns regarding the credibility of the elections as we've been used.
Hello, Abdin, you still there?
Everybody. There's major doubt about what's the key priority for Ethiopia, but for the humanitarian agency.
All right, we are talking with our East Africa correspondent, Abdino Aden, about the situation in Tigray regarding, calls about starvation going on in that region. Abdin, carry on, continue, you were saying.
Yeah.
I think the network is it's pretty rocky at this point in time. But I mean, we wish we could get one of the major statements was talking about, looking at the fact that the election is around the corner. We're just a couple of weeks away from the election that should happen there. So we can imagine the pressure that is being put on the government and the people in authority in ensuring that they provide the needful, they do the needful for the people. But I believe Abdinol is back online. Hello, Abdinol, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm with you. Sorry for the connectivity issues. Now, remember that the UN and the World Food Programme are speaking of hundreds of thousands of people. This isn't a small population. This is a huge number, considering the crisis that might come out of it if they are not given their most necessary aid. Therefore, what all these organizations and their leaders are calling for is to ensure that no matter what goes on behind the scenes and in the situation in Ethiopia, but the people who are in dire need must be accessed. And only yesterday we've had the Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta visiting Ethiopia to launch a Kenyan company's win in the bidding process for the telecommunications in Ethiopia. Therefore, it now brings more attention to the crisis that is related to the famine and the humanitarian need. Therefore, we're waiting for the next few days whether the humanitarian agencies will be able to get the access that they would like to be provided so that they can deliver the aid. Remember, they're also saying that there is a prevention by the Ethiopian authorities. Now, this even calls for more attention, because if the UN bodies are saying that the Ethiopian authorities are stopping or preventing the access of the aid to some parts of the Tigray, therefore it means that the Ethiopian government must intervene and provide that required access. And the same also goes out to the areas controlled by the militia to allow the people to go for assistance. Oluchi.
All right. Thank you so much, Abdinol, for your time on Breakfast Central. We'll be following up on this story.